line here. Business and personal finance got you tied up into knots, right? Let's continue them in my first training session this Friday. I'll show you how to manage your finances like a pro. And here's the best part, sign up now and get a free finance and consultation. Oh, and if you don't know me already, I'm a finance specialist with the William Factory Small Business Incubator here in Tacoma. Follow us for more tips, events, and resources to help you launch and grow your own business.
Before we dive deeper, let's familiarize ourselves with some key terms that will be used throughout this session. Understanding these terms like provided a solid foundation for our discussion. We have words like collateral, something pledged as security for repayment of a loan to be forfeited in the event of a default amount or equal to greater to loan. Assets, a useful or valuable thing, person, or quantity. Monetary value property owned by a person or a company regarded as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. Real estate, that is a property consisting of land or building. Fixed, i.e., there are three things, fixed property, fixed income, and fixed expenses. So a fixed property, that is the sum of all physical property, plants, and equipment, real, personal, and mixed, wherever located. Fixed income, an income from a pension or investment that is set at a particular figure and does not vary as dividend or rise within the rate of inflation. Fixed expenses, that is cost that typically remains the same in prices and frequency. Worthiness, the quantity of being good enough or suitability. Liquidation, that is the process of selling off assets and using the proceeds to pay off creditors and shareholders. That is, convert assets to money. We have risk. So, for people who don't know, secure loan versus unsecured loan. Well, a secure loan is backed by collateral, meaning something you own can be seized by the bank if you default on the loan. An unsecured loan, on the other hand, does not require any form of collateral. You will hear lot more of the finance words. Credit, that is the ability to borrow money with the promise that you repay in the future, often with interest. Revenues, that is business earned money. Statements, that is record of your financial. Personal banking, all the service banks designed and offer in individual consumers rather than businesses. Commercial banking, that is a type of banking that provides services from businesses, government agencies, and institutions like colleges and universities to help them grow and profit. Debt to income ratio, or DTI ratio, is a percentage that compares your total monthly debt payments to your gross monthly income. It helps lenders assess your ability to manage debt. Before we continue, I'd like to get a sense of where everyone is at. So, how many of you would you consider yourself knowledgeable about finance? Right here, you could pause it for this slide, and you could write a little note to yourself what you thought what finance is about, and then you can reflect on it like after you watch the whole video, knowing what you know about what finance is about. This is the core question we're here to answer. What exactly sets business finance apart from personal finance? Let's break it down. Business finance. It focuses on managing the financial resources and activities of a business entity. This includes acquiring funds, making investment decisions, and ensuring the financial health of the organization. So, as for examples, we have equipment purchases, staff payrolls, gross revenue, and business tax owed. As for personal finance, what is a personal finance? Well, that is involves managing an individual's or family's financial resources. This includes budgeting, saving, investing, and planning for personal financial goals. As for examples, we have your personal income. your personal credit, saying for like an early retirement, personal investments like stocks or 401k, and personal assets, which is like houses, cars, or artwork. All right, so you know what's the difference between personal versus business finance. Now let's talk about a case study example. So right here, John is a freelance graphic designer who recently started his own design studio, which is called Creative Edge Designs. Before launching his business, he managed his personal finances carefully, ensuring he saved for future expenses, managed his credit well, and maintained an emergency fund. However, once he started his business, he faced challenges in separating his personal and business finances, which can lead to financial complications. So let's talk about the personal finance management. Before launching his business, John followed structured financial practices in his personal life, ensuring financial stability. His key strategies should include budgeting, that is, he allocated portions of his income to rent, groceries, savings, and entertainment. John should follow the 50, dirty, 20, 20 rule. That is, 50% of his income covered essential expenses, that is, rent, utilities, food. 30% was allocated to spending as entertainment or travel. 20% that would be went into savings and investments for long-term financial security. He could use like a budgeting app to track his spending, ensuring he lived within his means. Another part of personal finance management that he should know is saving and investment. That is, he maintained personal emergency funds within, let's say, a 3 month worth of expenses and invested in stocks. That is stocks and index funds for long-term wealth building, a Roth IRA to ensure financial security in retirement. And last would be debt management. He used a credit card for everyday expenses, but paid the balance in full each month to avoid high interest charges. His credit score remained high, which positioned him well for future financial opportunities. All right. So now we know the personal finance management. Let's talk about business finance challenges. After launching Creative Ed Designs, John struggled with financial management. Initially, he used his personal bank account for both business and personal expenses, lead to the following problems. The first would be unclear cash flow. He used personal savings to pay business expense and vice versa, making it difficult to track profitability. That is, he paid for business expenses like software subscriptions, advertising, and office supplies. He used his personal credit card. He also withdrew money from the business revenue for personal use without tracking it properly. And this leads to confusion as he could clearly determine how much the business was earning or spending. Another business finance challenges would be tax complication. Without a separate business account, he struggled to differentiate deductible expenses, leading to higher tax liabilities. That is, since he had no deducted business bank account, it was difficult to separate tax deductible business expenses from personal expenses. This resulted in overpaying taxes as he missed legitimate business deductions. He also struggled during tax season because all transactions were mixed together. Another thing would be limited business growth, as he couldn't secure a business loan because he lacked a structured financial record for his company. That is, when John applied for a small business loan, banks require financial statements, profit and loss statements, tax returns, and balance sheets. Since he has no formal record-keeping system, he was denied financing and could invest in business expansion. And last would be legal and liability risk. Since John operated as a sole prosper without legal separations from his business and his personal assets, that is saving cars home, were at risk if the business faced legal action or debt. Let's talk about solution and lesson learned. John consulted a financial advisor and implemented key changes. Realizing these financial issues, John sought professional advice from a business accountant and took correct measures. And there are a few things that John should have solution and lesson learned. The first one is open a business bank account. That is, John opened a business checking account and used it excessively for company-related transactions. And he also obtained a business credit card to build business credit separately. Another would be set up a salary for himself. That is, instead of withdrawing random amounts from the business, he established a monthly salary. And this helps with predictable personal budgeting while ensuring his business has stable cash flow. Another would be create a business budget. That is, John separated fixed and variable expenses such as fixed like office rent, software subscriptions, variable, that is marketing costs, freelance contractors payments, and all, and then he sets aside a percentage of revenues for taxes, emergency savings, and business growth. John could also consider registered the business as an LLC. He registered Creative Edge Design as an LLC, which provided legal protection and separated his personal assets from business liabilities. This also improved credibility with clients and financial institutions. John should also have adopted accounting software. That is, John started using QuickBooks to track revenues, expenses, and profits, or any of like financial websites to track his finance. He automated invoice generation, expense tracking, and tax preparations. And last would be hired a business accountant. That is, he worked with the accountants to ensure compliance with tax regulations and optimize deductions. This helped him reduce taxable income legally and save money. So as for these outcomes, within a year, John's business finances became more organized, allowing him to apply for small businesses grants and ensure a loan for expansion. By separating personal and business finances, he ensured financial stability in both areas. That is, after implementing these financial changes, John saw significant improvement. That is, better cash flow management, that he could now see exactly how much the business earned and spent, allowing for smarter decision makings. The second would be easier tax billing, which is with clear records, he deducts tax liabilities by properly deducting business expenses. Another thing would be across to business credit and loans. His improvement financial documentations allowed him to secure a small business loan, enabling expansions. Strong personal finances with a structured business salary, he stabilized his personal budget without dipping into business funds unexpectedly. And last would be legal protection. As an LLC, his personal assets were safe from business-related lawsuits. So for the key takeaways, there are five things you should know. Um, One, always separate personal and business finances. That is, open a business bank account and use a business credit card for expenses. Second, pay yourself a structured salary. That's avoid taking irregular amounts from business revenue. Third, use proper financial tools as implement accounting software to track business transactions. Fourth, legally structure your business. That's register as an LLC or corporation for legal and financial protection. And last, plan for taxes early, set aside money for taxes to avoid financial strain. And by making these changes, John transformed Creative Edge Designs into a profitable and sustainable business while keeping his personal finances secure. So, for those who are wondering, what is a consumer credit? A consumer credit is individuals buying goods or services on credit, paying for them over time instead of upfront. It's like offering a payment plan or a credit card options for customers to make purchases. Here we have types of consumer loans. There are five types of consumer loans we have on the slide. The first one is audio loans. That's a secure loan that consumers can use to buy a vehicle. For example, John wants to buy a used Honda Civic for $15,000. He takes out an audio loan from his bank for $12,000, putting $3,000 down as a down payment. The car itself serves as collateral for the loan. Next would be cash advance. That's a short-term loan offered by your credit card issuer. The example, Sarah needs $200 quickly to cover an unexpected bill before her next paycheck. She uses her Visa credit card to get a cash advance at an ATM. She knows there will be fees and higher interest rate compared to regular purchases. Third would be personal credit card. That's MasterCard, Visa, or Amex. Example, Michael used his MasterCard to buy groceries, gas, and online subscriptions. He pays off the balance each month to avoid interest charges and to build his credit score. Fourth would be store revolving loan account. That's a credit account specific to a particular store. For example, let's say Emily opens a Macy credit card to get a discount on her first purchase and earn reward points on future purchases at Macy's. She understands that this card can only be used at Macy's. Last would be student loans. That's a loan that is for educational purpose. For example, David takes out a federal student loan to pay for his tuition, books, and living expenses while attending college. He knows he will need to start repaying the loans after he graduates. To wrap up, remember these key points about consumer loans. One, understand the purpose and terms of any loans before you commit. Second, compare interest rates, fees, and repayment options from different lenders. And last, borrow responsibly and create a budget to manage your loan payment effectively. Here we have credit scores. And most of you know what a credit score is. But what is it? For those who don't know, is a numerical representation of an individual creditworthiness. And there are a few things that will affect the credit score. First is payment history. That's, are you paying on time? Are you paying the minimum amount or more? For example, Sarah pays her credit card bills on time every month and sometimes even pays more than the minimum amount due. This positive payment history contributes to her excellent credit scores. Next is credit utilization. That's amount of credit use. This is usually defined as a percent of debt allowed. For example, if you have a total credit card due amount of $4,000 and a limit of $8,000 in credit, your utilization rate is 50%. Next is length of credit history. That's how long have you sustained your credit card. For example, if you had a credit card for 15 years and has constantly managed well, this long credit history demonstrates your reliability and positively impact your credit score. Next is type of credit use. That's credit card, home equity, or auto loans. For example, let's say David has a mix of credit, including a credit card, a car loan, or mortgage. This diversity shows lenders he can handle different types of credit responsibility. Next is new credit accounts. That's an open and closed account. Example, Lisa recently opened 3 new credit card accounts within a short period. This could negatively impact her credit score as it might suggest she's taking on too much debt. And last would be student loans. That's maintain healthy student loans credit. Example, Alex has been constantly making on-time payments on his student loans. This demonstrates responsible management of his debt and contributes positively to his credit score. Here on the left side, you see an image, the scaling rate of a credit score. On the left side of the scale, you see very poor. That's 300 to 499, and that mainly means a history of missed payments and high debt. Next is poor, that's 500 to 600. Usually to get a poor, you might have a late payment or a high credit utilization rate. In the middle, we have fair, that's 601 to 660. Let's give example like if you have a score of 630, you're working on towards improving your credit, but there's a room for improvement. That is for fair. Next would be good. That's 661 to 780. If you place at 720, that will makes you in a good range. And as for last, that'll be excellent that most of you should be in or good. One of those two I recommend. Now let's talk about excellent. That's mainly you have a long history of responsible credit management. So yeah, remember these are two examples. Each people's like credit situation is unique and various factors influence their credit scores. So let's talk about why do consumer credit score matter. There are three things that you should know. The first one is loan approval. That's higher credit scores increase the likelihood of loan approval. Let's give an example. Let's say the scenario, two individuals, let's pick a name, Sarah and David, apply for a personal loan of $10,000. For Sarah's situation, Sarah has a credit score of 780, which is considered excellent. She has a stable job and a low debt to income ratio. As for David's situation, let's say David has a credit score of 620, which is considered fair. He also has a stable job, but a slightly higher debt to income ratio than Sarah. The outcome, Sarah's loan application is quickly approved with a favorable interest rate due to her higher credit score. As for David's loan, application is approved, but after a longer review process and with a higher interest rate and stricter terms due to his lower credit score, which indicates a higher risk to the lender. Another thing we have is interest rates. That's better scores may result in lower interest rates. Let's give an example scenario. Two people, let's go with Emily and Michael, are both looking to finance a new car. They've each been approved for $25,000 audio loan. In Emily's situation, Emily has a credit score of 800, placing her in an exceptional range. This indicates a very low risk to lenders. As for Michael's, let's say Michael has a credit score of 650, which is in the fair range. This indicates a moderate risk to lenders. For the outcome, Emily is offered an interest rate of 3% of her audio loan, while for Michael is offered an interest rate of 7% of his audio loan. Over the life of a loan, Emily will pay significantly less in interest compared to Michael, saving thousands of dollars. And the last will be financial opportunities that affect eligibility for credit cards, mortgages, and other financial opportunities. It's very true that credit scores play a huge role in determining what financial opportunities are available to you. Let's let's give an example. A scenario that imagine two individuals, let's give another name, Alex and Jordan, both looking to secure a mortgage and a new credit card. In Alex's situation, Alex has a credit score of 790, which is considered excellent. Because of this, Alex is easily approved for a mortgage with a very low interest rate, and that qualifies for a premium credit card with a high credit limit and attract rewards program. Let's for Jordan's situation, Jordan has a credit score of 580, which is considered poor. Because of this, Jordan struggles to get approved for a mortgage, and if approved, face a much higher interest rate and is limited to secure credit card with low credit limits and high interest rates, or maybe deny credit cards altogether. So how does this affect your financial opportunities? Well, first one, Alex can build wealth more effectively due to lower interest rate costs and across to better financial products. As for Jordan, faces higher costs for borrowing money, making it harder to save and invest and thus build wealth. In essence, Alex has many open doors for financial opportunities, and Jordan has many closed doors. This example clearly shows how credit scores directly impact access across in crucial financial opportunities like mortgages, credit cards, and how those impacts can affect person's overall financial well-being. So, a lot of people are wondering, how do you even maintain a good consumer credit? Well, there are three things to know. The first one is timely payment. That's paying bills on time positively impacts credit scores. Let's give an example. Sarah has a credit card with a due date of the 15th of each month. She always pays her bills in full or at least the minimum amount by this date. This constant on-time payment history is reported to credit bureaus and help build a strong credit score. Next example, John has a student loan with monthly payment due on the 1st. He sets up automatic payments from his checking account to ensure he never misses a payment. This demonstrates responsible loan management and positively impacts his credit. And lastly, Maria pays her electricity, water, and internet bills on time every month. While these might not directly impact her credit score as much as credit cards or loans, late payments could lead to collections which would negatively affect her credit. Next, to how maintain a good consumer credit would be monitoring credit reports. That's regularly check credit report for accuracy. A few examples along the way would be the first one. Let's say David checks his credit report and finds a credit card account listed that he didn't recognize. He immediately disputes the error with the credit bureau and the creditor, preventing potential damage to his credit score from fraudulent activity. Another example, let's say Lisa reviews her credit report and notices a late payment listed for a medical bill. She thought she had paid. She contacts the doctor's office and discovers the payment was misapplied. She gets the error corrected with the credit bureau. And last example, let's do Michael checks his credit report and sees multiple in inquiries from companies he hasn't contacted. This alerts him to potential identified debt, allowing him to take steps to protect his account and credit. And last, how to maintain a good consumer credit would be responsible credit usage. That's avoid maxing out credit cards and manage debt responsibly. Let's give a few examples based on this. Let's say Emily has a credit card with the 5,000 limit. She constantly keeps her balance below 1,500, that is 30% utilization. This shows responsible credit management and helps her credit score. Another example, Robert has multiple credit cards with balances. He creates a budget to pay down his debt, focusing on the credit with the highest interest rate first. This proactive approach shows responsible debt management and improves his credit worthiness. And a last example would be, let's say Susan avoids opening new credit accounts unless absolutely necessary. She understands that each new account lowers the average age of her credit and can temporarily impact her score. So after talking all the examples based on timely payment, monitoring credit reports, and responsible credit usage, the examples illustrate how the general advice translates in specific actions you can take to maintain good consumer credit. Remember, consist- consistency and proactive management are key. Here we have business credit. And what is a business credit? That's a business credit refers to a score of rating agencies provide to assess the ability of a business entity to borrow funds or obtain goods and services on credit. And here's a side note, few banks will use agency credit scores for a business loan. Each bank will conduct a review of a business financial statement to determine the amount of loan, interest rates, and fees. You have to be cautioned that it is most likely that money you spend on business credit report will not enhance your ability to obtain a commercial loan. When you're running a business, having access to the right funding is crucial. Whether you're looking to expand, manage day-to-day operations, or invest in new equipment, commercial loans can provide the financial boost you need. But what exactly are commercial loans and what types are available? Let's take a look. As you can see here, we have a visual representation of some common financial tools. Business credit cards. These are just one piece of a puzzle. Think of them as a quick and flexible way to manage expenses, but they're not the only option. Now, let's dive into the core types of commercial loans listed on the right. First, we have term loans. These are your classic fixed-term loans. You borrow a lump sum and pay it back with interest over a set period. They're perfect for specific one-time need like purchasing a major asset or funding a significant project. Next, we have lines of credit. Think of this as a revolving credit line. Your approach for a certain amount and can draw on it as needed. You only pay interest on the amount you use. This is ideal for managing ongoing expenses like payroll or inventory. Then there's equipment financing. This is specifically designed for purchasing business equipment. The equipment itself often acts as collateral for the loan, making it easier to secure funding. And finally, commercial real estate loans. If you're looking to buy or improve property for your business, this type of loan is what you need. It allows you to invest in your business physical space. So as you see, there's a range of commercial loans options available, each tailored to different business needs. Understanding these types is the first step in making informed financial decisions for your company. Let's talk about overview of financial statements. So, what is a financial statement? A financial statement are formal records of the financial activities and position of a business entity. There are three components to know about financial statements for business, which is one, income statement, two, balance sheet, and three, cash flow statement. Let's talk about the roles of financial statements in business creditworthiness. So, the income statement that shows revenue, expenses, and profit over a period. Balance sheet, it provides a snapshot of a business financial position. It includes accounts receivable, accounts payable, equipment value, and possibly intellectual property. And last would be cash flow statements that reflects the inflow and outflow of cash. We will learn more about income statement, balance sheet, and cash flow statements in the upcoming workshops. So right now we talk about the brief of it, but we'll get more into details, like I said, in the future workshop. Here, let's talk about financial statements and credit approval. So lenders evaluate financial health. That is, lenders analyze financial statements to assess the business stability. And let's give examples. So A, that's banks, look for 3 consecutive years of net income. This can be the basis for clarification as a commercial or versus personal loan. The objective is to avoid using personal collateral for business purposes. Net income is after taxes, how much the business earns within the year, and if it's negative, you lost money, which means you'll have to put your money in the business, and if it's positive, you'll make money. The goal of the business is to make profit, and the banks want to see your 3 consecutive year of net income. Bankers really want to know if you're making money for your business. You want your personal and business finance to be handled responsible. Next, we have debt service coverage ratio, and that is ratio used to assess a business ability to cover its debt obligations. Debt ratio is the amount of money that the business having available in the amount to make the loan payment. From the banker's point of view, they want extra cushion money. From a business point of view, this is an opportunity to prove to make net income. Let's give example. 1.2 ratio means you have to have 20% more income than the amount of bank payment due. For example, if the monthly bank payment principal plus interest is $2,000 monthly, the bank will want assurance the business has $2,400 available monthly in available cash to make the bank payment. So the importance of accurate reporting, the accurate financial reporting builds trust with lenders. Let's emphasize why financial reporting is so important for obtaining business credit. The first one is lender confidence, and that is an accurate financial statement builds confidence in lenders, demonstrating transparency and responsible financial statements. As for risk assessment, lenders use these statements as assets the risk of lending to your business, which helps them determine interest rates and loan terms. Each bank will determine lending to a business based on financial statements. So right here we have the collateral difference. Collateral plays a different roles in consumers and business loans. For those who don't know, a collateral is an asset that borrows pledges to lender to secure a loan. So right here we have a collateral in consumer loans. On those, for example, home equity, that's land, automobile, that's vehicles, personal bank balance, for example, 401k, and spouse's community property. That's if you don't pay your personal loan, then your personal loan will go after your spouse to pay off your debt. For the collateral for business loans, we have the example account receivable, that's total amount due to the business. We have building assets. We also have equipment and vehicles, that's your assets and depreciation. If you use a car, you have to calculate how much you use. You can put your vehicle as a collateral. It'll maybe, but most of the time it'll be repossessed. Well, unless you good at negotiating. For the business bank account, liquid generally like personal account. Banks want a judgment and you'll look through a priority personal loan. For this last slide, let's talk about the art of financial cycle. This image is a visual representation illustrating the typical stages of funding a startup goes through, along with the corresponding revenue growth and the types of investors involved at each stage. Let's break it down. Let's first start off talk about the axis. So the x-axis, which is time, represents the progression of the startup from its initial stages to its later stages and eventual public offering. The y-axis, which is revenue, shows the revenue generated by the startup over time. Let's start talking about stages of funding growth. Let's start with the bottom wedge, which is called Valley of Death. This is the initial phase where the startup has very little to no revenue. It is called a Valley of Death because many startups fail during this period due to a lack of funding and revenue. This is the riskiest stage for both the founders and investors. The startup is typically pre-revenue or generating minimal revenue, and the product or service might still be in development phase. Typically, this stage is funded by the founder's own savings or through angels. And FFF, which stands for Friends, Family, and Fools. Many successful companies start in the garage or dorm rooms when the founder's personal savings. Like think of Apple or Amazon. FFF, this refers to initial funding often secured from people too close to the founders. It's a common way to get first capital injections. As for angels, these are high net worth individuals who invest their own money in early stage startups. They often bring variable experience and networks. Let's give an example of that part area. So imagine a team of engineers develop a new AI-powered medical diagnosis tool. They might use their savings, borrow from families, and secure funding from an angel investor with experience in the healthcare industry to build a prototype and conduct initial testing. Now let's start up with the early stages, which is in the left middle. The startup has going generating some revenues, but is still far from profitability. The startup has a minimum viable product and is starting to generate some revenues. The focus is on customer acquisitions, product development, and finding product market fit. For the funding source, angels and potentially some early stages venture capitalists, or VC for short. Usually for angel investor, usually continued support from them is common at this stage. Some venture capital firms specialize in seed stages investments, providing smaller amounts of capital compared to later stages. VCs. Let's give example of an early stage. A company developing a mobile app for language learning might secure funding from a seed VC to expand its user base, add new languages, and improve the app's features. Let's go to the next stage, which is later stage. About the later stage, the startup has demonstrated significant transaction, has a growing customer base, and is approaching profitability or is already profitable. The focus shifts to scaling operations, expanding into new markets, and potentially acquiring other companies. The funding source of later stage would be primarily venture capitalists, who provides larger rounds of funding to fuel growth. This is the primary source of funding at this stage. VC invests larger sums of money, Series A, B, C, etc., in exchange for equity in the company. To give an example of later stage, let's say a company that has developed a successful e-commerce platform might raise a Series B funding round from a VC firm to expand its logistics network, invest in marketing, and launch in new countries. Underneath the later stage, we have mezzanine. This stage is often characterized by a more structured financially approach, possibly involving debt or convertible instruments. It's a bridge between private funding and public offering. The graph shows a stepwise increase in revenue, suggesting a period of more predictable growth. For the funding source, private equity firms typically invest in more mature companies using a combination of debt and equity. Some hedge funds also participate in mezzanine financing. Specialized mezzanine funds, these funds focus specifically on providing mezzanine financing to companies. To give an example, a mezzanine, a profitable software company that is preparing for an IPO might raise mezzanine financing to fund a strategic acquisition or to buy back shares from early investors. And next to later stage and mezzanine is IPO, that stands for Initial Public Offering. The company goes public by listing its shares on a stock exchange, allowing anyone to invest in it. This provides a significant capital infusion and liquidity for early investors and employees. IPO clearly marks this as a milestone. To give an example of IPO, let's say a companies like Google, Facebook, and Amazon all went through IPOs, raising billions of dollars and becoming publicly trading companies. And finally, for the stages would be public market. The characteristic of public market is that the company is now publicly traded and subject to market forces and regulations. It continues to grow and generate revenue, but the growth rate might stabilize. Side note, public market indicates the company's status as a publicly traded entity. As for the funding source, the company can issue more shares to raise additional capital, and also it can issue bonds or take on loans. To give an example, a public trading tech company might issue a secondary offering to fund research and development or to acquire a smaller competitor. Now we already talked about the financial stages. Let's start with the orange line. The orange line represents the start of revenue growth trajectory. It starts low in the valley of death, gradually increase during the early stages. accelerates in the later stages, and eventually flatten out in the public market. The stepwise increase in the mezzanine stages suggests a more predictable and controlling growth pattern. The key takeaway, the image provides a simplified overview of the startup financial journey. It highlights the different funding sources available at each stage. It emphasized the importance of revenue growth for attracting investors and achieving success. The Valley of Dev serves as a reminder of the challenges faced by early stage startups. This visual representation is a valuable tool for understanding the complexities of startups, fundings, and the various stages of development. It's often used in business education and presentation in illustrates the interpreter's journey.
Hey, it's Lonnie with the Million Factory. Wow, what an amazing turnout for our business versus personal finance training. Thank you so much for joining me. It was the first in our 10-part on demand video series for entrepreneurs and startups. If you miss it, no worries. You can still catch the replay and join us for the rest of the series. Oh, and make sure to follow us for more tips, events, and resources to help you launch and grow your business.
Here we have some upcoming on-demand workshop. For the upcoming demand workshop for session 2, we have Introduction to Financial Literacy for Business. Session 3, Cash Flow Management and Budgeting. Session 4, Understanding Your Business Costs and Revenues. On session 5, we have Inventory Management and Cost Controls. Session 6, Bootstrapping, Loans, and Investment Options. Session 7, Growth and Scaling Strategy for Business. Session 8, we have Business Licensing, Regulation, and Taxation. Session 9, What is your financial future? And last but not least, Session 10, Revisit your business canvas model. Thank you for watching this on-demand video. We will have more along the way. If you want to contact me, you can contact through my email, or if you want to make an appointment, you can go to my calendar link below. Thank you.